So as much as I know the media would love to stick around for the Q&A, they're not going to be able to do that.
The doors were closed, but the mic was still on.
But Mr. Trump has it in mind that one of the easiest ways of doing that is absorbing our country. And it is a real thing. In my conversation with him
The CBC News camera didn't capture all of Trudeau's remarks about annexation, but the Toronto Star captured more, and he made it clear he didn't believe the tariffs were about trade or drugs or migrants. I suggest that not only does the Trump administration know how many critical minerals we have, but that may be even why they keep talking about absorbing us and making us the 51st state, he told the room. They're very aware of our resources, of what we have, and they very much want to be able to benefit from those. Business mogul Arlene Dickinson was in the room with Trudeau as a member of his advisory council, and she says his remarks align with her own thinking.
I think my belief is very strongly, and has been, I've articulated this many times in my posts and my discussions with people, that I do believe the objective of Donald Trump is to take over our resources.
Trudeau has reportedly made similar comments privately to premiers, raising questions about how long the government has viewed this as Trump's endgame.
There can be questions to the Prime Minister and to other ministers who are involved. When did you know that this was a serious thing? Did you know he wasn't joking that first time? Like, what's really been going on behind the scenes here?
What I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state.
The U.S. president has been open about wanting to use economic force to annex Canada. He's threatened close ally Denmark with war if it doesn't hand over Greenland.
I don't think that sovereignty is a concept that troubles Donald Trump a whole lot. He thinks this is an artificially drawn border. And so I think just this kind of blows the doors off of everything and really kind of opens up like really strange conversations about how we will protect our sovereignty.
Canada made a show of activity at the border, trying to prove it's serious about drugs and migrants to address Trump's stated concerns.
He needed to be able to say there was a threat to the United States. That comes in the form of fentanyl and border protection. And so it is a distraction. It is something that needs to be dealt with, but it's a distraction from what he really then talks about, which is access to our resources and access to having Canada be part of, the United States.
We saw the Canadian government invite media to two events at different parts of the border to showcase its helicopter patrols. So Trudeau's strategy seems to be to give the U.S. what it says it wants on drugs, on border security, while at the same time being aware that they may just be pretexts.
And Trump's annexation threats are getting a reaction in the U.S. too.
That's right. The talk of annexing Canada and the threats to Denmark and Panama may have been a bit of a surprise at first from a president who, after all, promised to end foreign wars. But many of Trump's supporters appear to be embracing it. In fact, quite a bit of merchandise is now being sold on Amazon promoting annexation. And we have yet to see any senior member of Trump's party contradict him or ask him to stop.
Okay, thanks for this, Evan Dyer.
Thanks.
Now let's turn to CBC News Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton. So, Rosie, we know the Prime Minister has told Premiers something similar to these comments this past weekend.
Yeah, that's right, Erica. But it is different, materially different, I think, when you hear it directly from the Prime Minister. We've come a long way from when the President supposedly joked about Canada becoming the 51st state over that dinner at Mar-a-Lago with Justin Trudeau before Christmas. The Prime Minister now not only acknowledging the real threat of what Donald Trump is suggesting here in terms of economic annexation, but also making the point that he believes the President is motivated by his desire to tap into this country's natural resources and critical minerals, and that it all has to be taken very seriously. Remember, Justin Trudeau had 2 phone calls with the president on Monday, and sources tell CBC News that on one of those calls, the president said he'd been reading the Treaty of 1908 that established the border between Canada and the U.S. And that really kind of clarified the thinking inside the Canadian government about all of this. Though I should also say that sources believe that that comment from the president was about destabilizing things rather than about the border itself.
Okay, so what does this tell us about the government response?
So again, the Prime Minister talked about a short-term strategy, avoid the tariffs going into place potentially at the beginning of March, and then the longer-term economic strategy to find ways for Canada to be less reliant on the United States. So whether that be tearing down interprovincial trade barriers, expanding markets, using free trade deals that we have with other countries. The Prime Minister was really trying to rally business leaders, economic leaders around some of these ideas today. But he's also heading to Europe over the weekend, where he's going to make some of these same kinds of arguments to allies.
All right, Rosemary Barton in Ottawa, thanks for this.